Hi, my name is Juan Castro, editor on IGN's PlayStation team, and we're here to talk about Genji-Days-of-the-Blade for PS3. Days of the Blade is a sequel to Genji, Dawn of the Samurai, which shipped for the PS2 in 2005. Dawn of the Samurai had impressive visuals and decent action, but it didn't really evolve the action genre in any way. Days of the Blade for PS3 has pretty much the same problems. It gives you a next-generation tour of feudal Japan. It's a really pretty game, but it never gives you the freedom to really explore it. For all the processing power of the PS3, it gives you the kind of gameplay you'd expect from a Genji sequel on PS2. It's not an absolute disappointment, but when it comes to a next-gen launch title, regardless of the platform it's on, it really needs to impress, both in how it looks and how it plays. Having said that, Days of the Blade does improve on its predecessor in a few ways. Players can choose 4 characters now, for instance. That's a nice roster of fighters, especially considering their individual strengths. They all have their own set of cool weapons, and it's possible to upgrade each one several times. You can also upgrade the characters themselves. Plus, you can switch between all the characters on the fly and also their weapons. Just press the right direction on the D-pad, the new character will swap with the one on screen. The mechanic is simple, intuitive, and it's pretty fast, so it never really gets in the way of combat. Fortunately, developers also structure the game to use each character all the time. Certain individual enemies, for instance, particularly bosses, go down much faster when using the correct character-weapon combo. Also, the same thing goes for obstacles and hazards in the environment. Only certain characters can push objects, while other ones are good at hitting switches, other ones can run along walls. But there's a problem with that too. Sometimes the player is left wondering which character or weapon to use on a boss, and if you don't find the right one soon enough, you end up dying over and over again until you find the right combination that magically works better than the others. As much as the back of the box may lead players to believe that it's an action-adventure title because there's a few obstacles and a few puzzles to be solved, there's very little actual adventure here. It's pretty much all action. When you're not hacking enemies, you're just running to another location to hack more enemies. So, unfortunately, after cutting through thousands of the same enemies, things get pretty repetitive and dull, and that's pretty much the bulk of the game, is just cutting people to pieces. Players can use a variety of moves and combos, including counters, though it's not as in-depth as it could be. Recovering from attacks and throws by using well-timed counters helps make fighting exciting, but the meat and potatoes of every encounter hasn't changed since, again, the days of Onimusha. The community is pretty cool and helps when surrounded by enemies. Basically, it draws players into an alternate reality where you can kill a half-dozen enemies without taking any damage yourself. It's basically a minigame where you need to press the right buttons at the right times to deliver hits. So it's a nice mechanic that plays one of the game, and it's pretty useful, so it's not just eye candy. Most enemies in the game aren't too bright, but that's expected since the game expects players to kill thousands of them. Still, the game provides a decent variety. The differences go beyond aesthetics, as certain enemies require specific tactics to defeat. Some of the harder enemies, for instance, go through several phases, so you have to beat them until you peel off layers of their armor, and then you can attack their core. Players will obviously think about the crab that was in the infamous PS3 event at E3. You had to tackle its legs first, then its armor, and then you flip it over and attack its core. A lot of the enemies are like that, so it adds a nice little variety to just, beating people to death. There's also general class enemies. These guys are a little bit bigger than the average enemy, and they also come packed with 6 or 7 lesser enemies that they command, and so you have to kill them first, and then kill their lesser cronies. So that's a nice touch. But the game also has archers, which is very, very annoying. The archers just kind of chill in the background while you're getting your ass kicked in the foreground, and there's nothing you can do to attack them until you kill everybody in the foreground first. A lot of games do this. It's annoying every time. Unfortunately, it looks like the same thing's going to be happening on PS3. In the end, Days of the Blade is a pretty game. It does a lot of good things that help differentiate it from its predecessor. It adds characters, it adds weapons. It's a longer game also. In the end, fans of the original might want to take a look at it, but anyone looking for a true next-generation action title will pretty much need to wait.